How's it going? Stop heckling me. So hi, my name is Mary Beth Cradle-Whitesall. I teach here at Philadelphia University, and I'm also the AIGA Philly chapter president. So I'm not the one you came here to listen to, so I'm going to be really short and sweet about this stuff. I just have a couple announcements about our upcoming events for AIGA. The first one I want to talk about is coming up really soon. It's on Tuesday, April 12th. It's the final installment in our Design Business Lecture Series. This one is going to be on accounting, and hopefully we'll have some really good tips for freelancers and people who have to do their books all by themselves. And it's right before your taxes are due, so you might get some really good tips about that too. So hopefully attending this lecture will save you boatloads of money, so you should go. I don't know if you saw at the front desk this little card. But people who attend this lecture are eligible to receive a special 20% off discount on the Design Business Accounting Lecture Series. If you go to our AIGA Philly website, when you click on Eventbrite, the button to register, there's a promo code you can put in. Just write in Facebook, and you'll get 20% off. And then the other event I want to talk to you about is going to be on May 5th. It's called Feedback, and graduating seniors in the audience should listen very closely to this. Feedback is an event where seniors can come and show their portfolios off and get feedback from working professionals before the stakes are too high and you're going on real interviews. So it's a great chance to make some contacts and get some advice by people other than your professors who you're probably tired of hearing from by now. So that's all I have to say. I'm going to pass it off to Gavin Cooper, who's going to introduce our guest.
Okay, so I expect the same amount of applause. So I'm definitely not who you came here to see speak tonight. My name is Gavin Cooper. I'm a professor here in the Graphic Design Communications Department. As part of the introduction, I just wanted to do a quick survey, if I could. How many people in this room consider themselves print designers? Web designers? Programmers? Hybrids? Where you do it all. Kind of a mix, yeah. It's what we kind of start to see is the kind of the combining of skill sets, and the expectations are going up for us designers. We are now becoming programmers, web thinkers, information architects, usability engineers, and all these other disciplines kind of coming together into one. Consistent with that is the university here forming the DEC and the new School of Design, Engineering, and Commerce, affectionately referred to as DEC, where designers, business, and engineering all come together, collaborate on projects, collaborate on different courses and such. So tonight we have Ben Blumenfeld, who is a graduate of UCLA, and he emulates such a designer.
LA?
Yeah, we like him anyway. So, before Facebook, Ben has worked at a couple different interactive experiences. One was with a company called Big, where he produced work for Fox, Universal, KB Home, and Princess Cruises, to name a few. Then he moved to the Hollywood television circuit and did work for CBS, creating online experiences for shows like CSI. Any CSI fans in the room? Survivor. Yeah, right, Survivor. And The Late Show. And to drop yet another name, his name was actually referenced on air. There's a rumor about this anyway. His name was referenced on air by David Letterman, and David Letterman called for his termination. So I can't wait to hear that story. Either over drinks later or tonight, we'll see. We'll see.
Not a highlight of the career.
So then after that, he joined his childhood friend Roy Rubin and became the design director of a company called Varian. And Varian built a reputation of being one of the country's leading e-commerce firms in the United States. At that point, Ben was courted by a small company in California called Facebook, where he's the marketing design lead, and he spends his days urging and encouraging people worldwide to connect and share with the people they care about. So please join me in welcoming Ben Blumenfeld.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for coming. I know it's 7 o'clock on a, what is it, Thursday? Not a fun time to come out. Alright, so my name is Ben Blumenfeld. I do design at Facebook. I started there as a product designer. At Facebook, the product designers are actually building and designing the things that you guys use. I went to manage for 2 years, managing one of our design teams, and now I actually do full-time design again as a hybrid product and communication designer. And basically I want to talk to you guys about impact. That's something I'm super passionate about, and the 4 times that I speak, I kind of focus on this idea, and it's basically how can we do more work faster, affect more people, or do work with less people, right? And for Facebook, this is really important because we're a small team. This is our team. This was a couple of years ago, so we were really small then. We don't always get along. So we have 30 designers, and it might sound like a lot, but we have hundreds of millions of users. If you look at companies where they're servicing that many people, they usually have huge, like Apple, for example, which is the Mac OS, much smaller than Facebook. They have hundreds of designers. We have 30. We have 12 user interface engineers. These are the guys that are actually doing the UI development work. We have 7 researchers, and we've started doing a lot more research to figure out what's, when you come up with an idea as a designer, you don't know if it actually works or not. You actually want to put it in front of people and see, like, are they using it the way that you intended. So we have 7 of those. 5 managers. For some of you that work in different companies, you'll notice our manager to designer ratio is really low. And 3 content strategists. These are the people that are actually writing all the copy. 3 of them, that's it. What's missing from here? Prize to anyone who guesses.
Mark Zuckerberg.
What? Mark Zuckerberg. Actually, that is, yeah, okay, that's sort of right. Yeah, in a way. This is our whole design team. What don't we have? What? Who's the creative director? Right? Mark fucking Zuckerberg. That's it. Well done. Yeah, he's not on the design team, but he kind of acts as a design director. But I'll kind of show you how we operate without a design director as we go. This is another way to give you guys a little bit of idea of scale, right? This is how many people we affect in the world, and that's our team. Not to scale, but pretty close, right? All right, so we're going to go 3 approaches that we use at Facebook that you can use to be more impactful. And I'm going to start with a little bit of history. In 2006, these 2 guys, Marcel and Putnam, hacked the Facebook codebase. They basically came up with 2 different hacks on their own. One guy, Marcel, came up, I'll show you. Putnam came up with a worm that allows any sort of hack to propagate through the Facebook system. And Marcel came up with this. Anyone infected with Marcel's little hack had a visual update to their Facebook account, right? The 2 projects together, if you put them together, one is transforms a Facebook account, the other actually allows that thing to propagate through the system. That's pretty powerful. So one of their friends, who saw them working on these 2 projects together, put them in touch, and within a couple weeks they unleashed this onto the Facebook at the time, site. Within a couple hours, there were about a few thousand accounts that had this upgrade done to them. And we have some pretty good engineers too, right? So we actually caught it pretty early, within a few hours, and stopped it. Now, Dustin Moskovitz, who you guys saw briefly in the movie, but he was one of our instrumental co-founders, called these guys up, and he said, guys, next time you hack our site, just let us know. Don't actually unleash it on the system. And how would you guys like to come out to California for a visit? Putnam, who actually his background is as a hacker, had recently read about a similar incident at MySpace where someone hacked the site. They invited them for a visit in LA, and as the guy got off the plane, the police were waiting for him and had him arrested. Right? So this is in his head when he's thinking like, do I go out there? They're inviting me to see the place or not? But the two of them decided to go. They get off the plane, no police. They're like, phew, okay. They go meet everyone. After 3 hours of interview, Dustin offered them both a job. They were 19 at the time. The next day, both of them dropped out of school and started at Facebook. Putnam as our head of security. Alright? The reason this story is kind of so instrumental, and especially love kind of looking at the MySpace versus Facebook outcome, is that from day one, we've embraced this hacker culture. And not so much the culture of, you know, people who are like malicious and break into sites, though like many of the people that work at Facebook can do that. But the idea of people who tinker, people who get their hands dirty, people who kind of learn by doing, right? We've embraced that since day one. And one of the things that we try to do as a design team is help keep that in the culture. And one of the ways we do that is through hackathons. How many of you guys have heard of our hackathons? A few of you. All right. Hackathons at Facebook are overnight events. They start at 8 p.m. They go till the following morning, and then we all go out to breakfast. And the only directive of a hackathon is that you have to work on something that you don't normally work on during the day. Actually, there's two. And you have to ship something by morning. Meaning you start at 8, and when you're done, it has to be out to people, or it has to be a working prototype. It has to be done. Those are the only two things. And hackathons have actually been huge for us. Facebook video, Facebook chat have all come as, they've started as hackathon projects and slowly built and developed into real products. So a lot of the stuff that you guys use on Facebook came because two guys, or guy and a girl at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night came up with this crazy idea and made it work within a few hours, right? So, keeping hackathons alive, super important. And one of the ways, one of the recent hackathons that happened, this was Hackathon 13, one of the organizers came to us and he said, guys, we need to continue to build these hackathons. We need to continue to make sure that the attendance is high, especially as our company grows, it becomes more difficult. He's like, Hackathon 13 is coming up. I need your guys' help to promote this, and by the way, we have 48 hours, right? So as a design team, we can say, hey, listen, buddy, 2 days, like, I mean, we can't really do anything in 2 days, right? But we have a motto of move fast. And so the team got together and said, well, let's try something that we usually use on the site, and let's do it on a communication print design project. And that's when we decided to employ this first tactic that the design team does a lot, which is ship and iterate. This is a little blasphemous in design circles because the concept is this. Instead of waiting to get something perfect, to get something that's polished and refined, you get something out that's good enough and you get it out fast. And you see how people react to it and you iterate on it, right? In web design, that makes a lot of sense, right? It's like, oh, it's the web, you let people react to it. I mean, and people still do not do this on the web. In print, it becomes much more difficult, and I'll show you guys how we did this in print. All right, so 48 hours. First thing we did was we got a couple designers together and came up with this mark. Again, remember, we have no creative directors, so there's no chain that we have to go up to like get this stuff approved. So we're just sketching, sketching, sketching. This was about 3 hours later, we had this mark. So we kind of liked barcodes, right? We liked the way they like organize information, very similar to Facebook. We came up with let's focus on the word hack, which is very actionable, as opposed to hackathon, which is an event. So we came up with some of these visual assets, right? The next thing we did, this was around, so started in the morning, 12 o'clock, lunchtime comes. Facebook, we have a nice cafe. But one of the things that we also do is we put food in all the refrigerators. And so we thought, how can we interrupt people's day and get them to start thinking about the hackathon? So we printed them out on Avery labels, not like some custom label, and just put them on the food. So that way people come, they take out food, and they're all of a sudden kind of they're stopped, right? For that few seconds, they're stopped, like, oh my god. So that was a few hours into it. Then we took the same mark, went to our big plotter and printed a few posters. That alone already started getting people talking about it, right? Still same day. Another designer took that same logo and cut out a stencil. And he said, well, okay, I made a stencil, what should we do? And another designer said, let's freaking graffiti this place, right? And that's okay at Facebook because we're in a building that's going to be torn down in a few years. And we've kind of established this rule that go ahead and mess the building up. Feel ownership over it, right on the walls, it's okay. So we just went to town, we just grabbed some spray paint, right? Started spray painting everywhere. And again, people, engineers started seeing this stuff, started getting excited, started coming up to us like, hey, what's going on, da, da, da. Later that day, an engineer, right, this is not a designer, an engineer took the same mark and created, all using ASCII characters, this illustration, that when anyone logged into their development sandbox, they would see this. This wouldn't have happened if we waited, till the end to get all this stuff together and then launch it in one big, hoopla, right? We released it early, and all of a sudden people took it and made it their own. And now all of a sudden all the engineers are seeing it in front of them. Here's another thing we did. We took a piece of paper and printed the logo as a repeat pattern. No idea what we were going to do with it, right? That doesn't make, why are you printing stuff out if you don't know what you're going to do? Who cares? Let's just print stuff, let's make stuff, and then we'll figure it out. So we printed stuff out. One guy said, well, I got some wheat paste from repasting some posters last week. Let's wheat paste this thing on some of the columns. So we tore the edges, started wheat pasting it all. If any of you guys also do graffiti, you'll love this. Yeah, you can still do this in corporate America today. And then engineers came to us and said, well, you guys have stickers of this stuff? We want to put it on our computers. We said no, but what we do have is a silk screen of it. Give us your computer and we'll just silk screen straight on that thing. Right? IT departments love this. They're like, yes, permanent damage. Alright, so this was all done in a day and a half. The silk screening happened the following day. And you just felt the groundswell. Everyone's excited, everyone's fired up. And then during the actual event, we silk screened people's shirts. So we had people bring shirts. We set up a silk screening station and just silk screened away on people's shirts. And everyone came away with a one-of-a-kind piece, right? And the result, this was our largest hackathon turnout ever, right? And for a company whose very being is in keeping with this culture, who relies on having this sort of innovation and iteration, this is huge for us. We have to keep this alive. So this was a huge win. So for you guys, if you're students, and if you're, this is kind of a mix of students and professionals, but think about all the projects that you have. Think of all those projects that are 80% of the way there, 85% of the way there. And think about, well, what if you actually just released it the way it is, and saw how people interacted with it, and then iterated on it, right? These are all the features that Facebook Photos did not launch with. How many of you guys have ever used Flickr? Alright, great site, right? 5 billion photos are on Flickr. That's all hugely successful. When Facebook wanted to do a photo sharing site, if you're going to compete with some of these modern photo sites, you're going to say, well, let's do all these things, right? We're going to need high res, we're going to need all this stuff. Instead, all we did was implement the most basic photo sharing site with one awesome feature. Who can tell me what it is? Tagging, right? The ability to say, my friend is in this photo. And that's it. Facebook Photos uploads a Flickr's worth of photos a month. We're using our competitors as a unit of measurement. Right? That's when you know you're doing well. That's another good sign. So, think about it, and we would have never gotten to that point if we'd waited and made sure, we're developing a photo site, let's make sure we have all our ducks in a row before we launch. We would have never gotten there. So, shipping and iterating, right? You can do it on communication design, you can do it on web design. Alright, cool. Second thing, be data informed. And I love this because kind of has a very nice distinction between being data informed and being data driven. One says, data is the end-all be-all that we're trying to optimize for, and we're going to let that decide what we do. The other says, the one that we use, is data is one input that we feed into the system, including other design gut intuition, right, that we feed in, and we make decisions based on that. And let me show you guys an example of a data-informed product at Facebook that would never happen this way well, I don't want to say in any, but in most companies this wouldn't happen. Facebook ads. Ad systems in almost every company are absolutely data-driven. You optimize for money, right? The point of an ad system is to make a company money so that they can do whatever it is else that they want to do. So you can set it up that way, right? And it'd be really easy. Make ads, the more money they make, the better they are, and just continue building a system that way. At Facebook, revenue for ads is actually our second priority. Our first priority, quality. The reason is because we believe that having quality as a high-level goal will actually yield more revenue going forward. We have no proof that shows this. In fact, we have proof that proves the opposite is true. We've served people bad ads to see how that drops their engagement, and it doesn't. People will use Facebook despite having crappy ads. And even though this is true, we still to this day, have quality as a primary goal because we think long-term it will actually bring the revenue up. And it's a much more difficult thing to optimize for. So let's take a look at this. These are 3 ads that I got a couple days ago on Facebook. And these are pretty good. I love traveling. The top one is for Starwoods, right? It's a Starwood hotel ad. Pretty good. I like design. Bottom two design-related ads, right? That's pretty good quality ads, and they're pretty relevant to me. If I were to put someone in charge of Facebook ads and tell them, make these better, right? Seems like a no-brainer, right? What would you do? It's freaking text and a couple images. Like, what are you doing, buddy? Right? Let's make it like let's add some pizzazz, big rich media, right? So here's what someone might do. Let's take big banner ad, videos that play, have it be flash. This is an ad that's actually on the top of YouTube.com. Or maybe you come up with something like this, a skin, right? Let advertisers kind of have a big visual presence on the site and let people, send their message. So that seems like a pretty good idea. And if you're running ads in a data-driven way, this is probably a pretty good idea. If you launched this, it would probably perform well. People would click on this stuff, and you'd probably be promoted, and everything would be hunky-dory. That's in a data-driven company. At Facebook, you would probably be fired if you came up with these ideas. And the reason for us is that these are not going to be a quality experience in a site devoted to helping people share and connect with each other. This feels like advertising is a different entity than your friends or family. And what we want to do is create an ecosystem where everyone's equal, right? When you see an advertiser as a friend, as a family member. So this is not going to fly. So how do we kind of improve quality in our ads? Usually, most ad systems, you just kind of click, or when you click, that's a vote, right? So if you like an ad, you click on it, and that tells the ad system that that person liked it. And that's the way we first launched ads. But what we noticed is it wasn't a good metric of quality. For example, dating site ads performed really well amongst married men. Right? So maybe for the people viewing the ads, that's really good. But if you're running a dating site and the people coming in are married, you're not getting quality leads from Facebook. So that sucks. That's a bad experience. So we know, and then also, what about if you don't click an ad? Maybe it's just uninteresting, maybe it's offensive. That kind of seems like good information to have if you're trying to serve good, quality ads. So we came up with a solution. You can roll over an ad and hit X, and then we ask you, why wasn't this interesting to you? Was it just, or why did you X this out? Was it uninteresting? Was it uninformative? Was it offensive? Right? Those are really good metrics to have. And so now we take click-throughs, we take X rates, and then we also take this data, how, what people say, and we use that to serve much better ads. And if you guys have been on Facebook for a year or two, you'd notice the ad quality is much better. We used to have ads that were like free iPod, or like weird scammy dating sites, things like that, and they're just much, much better. And I will say, so that's kind of a data-informed approach to ads. And I'll say this also, in Silicon Valley, the tendency is to be too data-driven. But anytime I've kind of left that little bubble, what I've seen is people just have no data at all. So for example, I've interviewed people, and I say, show me a project that exemplifies your design thinking, that says like, this is the type of work I want to be doing. And someone will show me a site that they've built or some poster they designed, and I say, what kind of impact did this have? How many people actually did the thing that you tried to get them to do? And I literally got this. Hands like, I don't know. I was like, well, how do you know that this was good? And I've gotten two answers. One, it was in ComArts. Two, the client loved it. That's not good enough. That's just not good enough. If you created a site and a few hundred people like went through it and none of them did anything, it's shit, right? You did nothing. We got into design to affect people, right? To get people to do something meaningful. If you don't have the data, if you don't know what you're actually getting people to do, you don't have enough of the story. All right, that was point 2. You guys still with me? Are we good? All right. Last thing, and this is the best one. Leverage platforms. And every day this becomes better and better. Let me show you guys a bunch of examples here. For Facebook, when we talk about leveraging platforms, it means either use existing platforms or creating new ones. So here's a great example. 2008, one of our designers started 3 weeks before the election, right? Obama-mania, sweeping the nation, everyone wants to get people out to vote. And you have a designer and a couple engineers, and they're thinking, what can we do to get people to vote? And so he came to me, he just designed this on his own. He's like, Ben, what if we actually built a page like this, and let people come and they can see where they can vote, and see where their local polling place is, and when it closes, and all these things. I was like, that's great. Should we run it by our creative director? I was like, we don't have one. Awesome. I was like, go get an engineer, build this shit. So they did. Within a week and a half, this was built. And this was what was so brilliant about this. The I voted button. Anytime that someone clicked I voted, it would tell all their friends, I voted, did you vote? Right? Social pressure. I voted, did you vote? I voted, did you vote? So in this case, we're leveraging the newsfeed for distribution, right? For the reach. Again, these are 3 people. When we came in the day of the election and started watching how many people clicked the I voted button, this is what it looked like in real time. By the end of the day, almost 5.5 million people had done it. That's the equivalent of a few 100 million times that someone said, I voted to a friend, did you vote today? Think about how many people that drove to the polls that day. That was 3 people in 3 weeks worth of work. Pretty awesome, right? I'm going to continue giving you guys examples of this. All right, Pixel Cloud. We have no creative director. How do we share information? Because usually the creative director is someone where all the decision-making funnels up to that person, except for Mark fucking Zuckerberg. Right? So all the information funnels to that person, and they can kind of coordinate and make sure everyone's in sync. We don't have that. So one of our designers a few years ago said, well, why don't we build a tool to let designers post mocks and have it be almost like Facebook. It's like a feed, a stream of mocks that you can see, and people can comment on it. So he built this thing called Pixel Cloud. So you go, you take a screenshot of your mock, you add a little caption to it, post it up, and it goes into the stream of mocks so everyone can log in and just see kind of what everyone's working on it and comment on it, right? A new mock goes like this, and we actually use the Facebook UI, all the UI elements that were built to build this. So we're not starting, again, we're reusing things. We're not starting from scratch and all this stuff. right? It's like the same, your profile photo on Facebook, the same type, everything else, and you can kind of give them feedback. And this was huge for us in terms of sharing and collaborating. This is building a collaboration tool. And you guys might say, well, okay, well, I don't have like a kick-ass designer developer that can build this. Doesn't matter. There's a ton of tools like this that you can use. This is sketch.com. Same type of thing. You can upload screenshots, sign up all your team or your classmates or whatever it is, post mocks to it, and comment on it. Here's another one. 37 Signals has a site called Campfire. It's more of a stream-based approach, but still gives you guys a good way to collaborate and share information. And actually, this has actually started replacing Pixel Cloud for us. How many of you guys have ever used Facebook groups? A few of you. The new product we just started 3-4 months ago. But we've started using groups internally as a way to share information. So we created a group for design, and people start posting into that group. When someone posts into that group, you get a notification on Facebook. Everyone's already on Facebook, right? You're already on there like, whatever, an hour, 2, 3 a day. We're on there 24/7. So it's much better distribution, so people see it much easier. So this has actually started to cannibalize. Facebook.com has started to cannibalize Pixel Cloud views, and I would say now it's about half and half. But instead of like fighting this, we're just embracing it and seeing how can we transform this Facebook.com as a work tool. So we're doing this all the time. So here, leverage tools for sharing, right? Another example, translating Facebook. And this one, this is another example of where we built a platform, but this one kind of shows some of the negative sides when you decide to build your own. One is huge upfront costs, right? So when you decide, especially to build something on this scale, there's probably a quicker way to do what you're trying to do. So you kind of have to weigh the upfront costs with the speed of building something a little quicker that you want to ship out faster. And then 2, it gives you less control oftentimes when you build a platform. So what did we do? We realized we were going to have to translate Facebook if we want everyone in the world to use Facebook. And that is one of our goals as a company, is to get it to everyone in the entire world. So if it's going to be to everyone in the world, it has to be in every language in the world. So we went to a translation house, and we said, we want to translate Facebook. And they said, how many words do you need translated? We said 75,000. We're like, okay, that's going to be a lot of money, and it's going to take about a month per language, all right? So that doesn't seem that bad. So French, okay, German, Russian, you start looking at the languages, but there's like 100 and something languages. That's a lot of months that you're going to have to wait. So we decided we're going to build a translating platform, which was going to be a ton of work. It means we have to take every string on the site, wrap it in a function. We have to build a tool to give people the ability to translate everything. We were going to crowdsource it. So instead of people at Facebook doing the translation, we let everyone on the site translate the site. You're giving up a ton of control for this. And about 6 months into it, we had not had a single language launched. We could have had 6, right? And that was a real gut check time. It's like, hey, it's 6 months. All these other sites are coming up, but coming up on our heels. Twitter is like doing really well, and we're still only in English. And the team was just like, oh man. And you don't even know if it's going to work, right? Will people actually translate once you launch it into the wild? So, there's pros and cons. But once we launched this thing, French was translated in less than a day. All right? And now, when we launch a new product, it's translated like this in 75 languages. But as I'm developing something and I check in the code before I even put it live to everyone, it's already translated. There's like magic, it's almost like a magical lemming. It's like, it just works. It's amazing. But the upfront costs were huge, and we give up control. People have actually gamed it. So I think it was in Spain, a bunch of people voted up a translation for some word and make it be another word, right? So you give some of that up. All right, so this leveraging crowdsourcing tools. Let me show you guys another example. How many of you guys have used Kickstarter? Or have heard of it? Heard of it? Here and there. Fundraising, right? How many, think of all the times you're like, oh, I would do this, but I don't have the money to do it. This guy came up with an idea to house the Apple iPod, that little square iPod, and house it in a watch. When Apple launched this, everyone was like, oh, this should be a watch. It was almost obvious. And this guy said, well, I could build it. I have an industrial design background. But he needed like 30, 40 grand to do it. And so it's kind of hard if you're an individual designer to say, I'm going to put 40 grand in my hard-earned savings and hope people buy this. Instead, he puts this thing on Kickstarter, and he raises almost $1 million. Yeah. And this isn't just fundraising, right? This isn't just people saying, here's money, go do this thing. These are sales. So he's getting funds, he's getting sales before he's even produced the product. And these are all ambassadors. They feel like they have gotten in on the ground floor, like they are owners in the company. So not only are they going to buy the thing you haven't made, they're going to evangelize it for you. The excuse of, I do not have money to do something, no longer works. Awesome. To leave you guys with no doubt of the power of leveraging platforms, I'm going to give you one last story. How many of you guys know about the FARC? A few of you? Alright. So, the FARC is a rebel organization in Colombia, and whether or not you believe in their politics, I think most people in this room would disagree with their methods. The FARC in Colombia, to get their point across, and to fund themselves, kidnap people, and create an air of fear across Colombia. There wasn't that many of them, probably about 40,000 of them, but they created this constant fear. If you spoke out against the FARC, it was very likely that a family member or cousin or daughter would go missing within a few days. That's pretty powerful to get people to not speak up. This guy, Oscar, he was an engineer, he's 33, and he came home one day hearing about another FARC kidnapping and kind of said, you know what, I've had enough. Sick of it. I want to do something. I'm going to put myself out there. And he decides to create this. He creates a Facebook group called A Million Voices Against the FARC. He's very specific about the language he uses, and even the design. He's not a trained designer, but he came up with the messaging and the colors, right? He's using Colombian colors to accentuate a message. He's very deliberate about it. Creates the group, and then sits back and realizes that he's put himself out there. Within a few hours, a few thousand people had joined. He goes outside to play soccer, comes back, 20,000 people. Goes to bed, wakes up, 130,000 people. And now all these people are looking to a guy who yesterday was an engineer, and they are saying, you lead us. We're with you. Whoa. We're with you. We're with you. What do we do? Right? This guy's like, I just created the group. I don't know what to do. But he's like, all right, we have an opportunity here. So he started using this group. He started using Google Docs. And he started organizing everyone together in all sorts of different countries. And he said, let's have a worldwide protest to show the FARC that we are all in this together and we are all going to speak out together worldwide. And he came up with a date, February 4th. And he organized all these groups together, and the date came, and he just, he's like, you don't know. There's thousands of people. Maybe they show, maybe they don't. He woke up that morning. This is what it looked like in Europe. And this is what it looked like in Colombia. 12 million people took the streets that day. One guy, Facebook, Google Docs, like, leveraging the platforms that existed. He didn't build anything, right? He just caught that moment, and kind of just turned it on a little bit. And these scenes look really familiar, right? Because recently, all that turmoil in the Middle East, same thing. These are all people trying to speak out, using platforms that exist to speak out. So leveraging platforms, that is huge, right? And I talked a little bit before about impact. And this is something I really hope if this is the one takeaway you guys take away from this talk, is that shoot for that. Like, don't be satisfied with making a beautiful poster or a beautiful site. What are the things that you can really impact, that you can have actually effect in your community, in your country, in the world? If you can now do that, right? I see so many students, especially students, I see students, they have these great ideas. I say, that's great. Did you build that? No. Why not? I don't know. Do it, right? You have the people, you have the means. The cost is almost zero now, right? So that's basically it. These are the 3 approaches. I hope you guys take them to heart. Thank you guys for coming. That's basically it. I guess we'll open it up to Q&A. Questions? Thoughts? Jeers? Yeah.
Since you don't have a creative director, what happens when you produce something and Mark doesn't like it?
The question is, what happens when you produce something and Mark doesn't like it? He tells you, and you redo it. Mark is still very hands-on and very much the ultimate decision maker. It doesn't mean that he's going to have his hands on every single design that goes out, but the important stuff, he's involved day to day. He comes around your desk every single day. He's there for hours. He's the first one in and he's the last one out, to this day. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Other questions? Oh, yeah. Yeah. You white shirt. What's your name?
Whose idea was it to do like some of the, I guess, more fun, seemingly needless things like the Nintendo hack or like the pirate speak language?
The ABAB start. That was Marcel. That was our great hacker friend. What was the other thing you were asking?
Along with like other languages, you can do like.
Oh, Pirate and stuff like that. So again, we created a language platform, and so it costs us nothing to add all sorts of other languages. So if someone wants to create Pirate, it's one little line in code, and then you let people translate the site to Pirate, or upside down English, or it's got to be like 7 silly languages now. The injecting of personality is actually interesting because as we've grown, it's much more difficult to do that and do it in a universal way, right? It used to be when we knew our audience, college students, and we were college students, and so we knew their sense of humor, and we had all the like quotes from movies and the whole thing. But now, we're trying to be this equal platform for people to communicate, and when you take a point of view, it kind of muddies the waters a little bit. So we're pretty careful about where we inject the personality and how we do it. Other questions?
Is there a plan on how often you guys release everything on Facebook? Like, do you guys just come up with stuff and then we're like, oh, we're going to release it? Or do you have like a projected plan?
It's a little bit of both. So the crazy thing, we still release code every single day. So every single day something is changing on Facebook. We have projects that are going on, and some of them have set deadlines that we're trying to shoot for. Sometimes we're trying to kind of make sure that all projects coordinate with one big release. But we always try to let product lead PR. So for example, there's a lot of companies who you would build something, and then the PR person would say, oh, this would go great in our conference. Let's wait a couple of months to like announce it, right? We will not do that. We just like launch this. If it's ready, it goes. If it's ready, it goes. Waiting is going to bite you in the ass. More questions? I'm surprised you guys don't have more questions.
I have one.
Who has more? Alright, what's your name?
My name is Kathy. Hi.
Kathy, welcome. Woo!
So the
That
question
rowdy
that I
guys are.
have is that there have been networking sites in the past, Friendster and MySpace. What were the downfalls of those networks that made way for the newer, the cooler, and what are you doing to prevent that from happening to you?
Yeah. So the question is, MySpace and Friendster were so sweet, and they died. How come? And what are you guys doing to not be the next Friendster and MySpace? Is that about right?
Yeah, like is that inevitable that like nothing cool can stay?
No. Absolutely not. Look at Ray-Bans. Been around for 30 years, still cool. You don't want to be cool. We don't shoot for cool, right? We shoot for useful. We shoot for connecting people. You shoot for cool and you're fucked, because you are right that cool things come and go, right? So, what did Friendster do wrong? They were not good technically. They did not build a solid site that was up all the time. How many of you guys use Twitter and Facebook? How many of you guys seen a Facebook fail whale? Does not exist. We don't spend time making fail pages. We do not get fail pages. That is not an option. We have a very good technical team that keeps the site up. That's what I believe and what we believe was Friendster's downfall. MySpace was a shit show. That site just sucked, right? You could see that site failing from a mile away. It was so poor. It was so poorly done. It was so unfocused. It was driven by revenue. It was great for music, right? And maybe that was a good core essence, but it was slow and difficult to use and hard to use, you know. I mean, the list goes a mile long. If you're in this space, you saw MySpace dying in the beginning. And then the other thing was like, what are you guys doing not to be that? It's focusing on connecting people. It's focused and continuing to take risks. One of the things that's so awesome that Zuck instills in the entire company is he says, we will not die for lack of risk-taking. That is huge when you are a company of our size and have so much at stake like we do. To have a leader that says, we do not die because we don't take risks. So we continue to make crazy risks, things that people are just like, I mean, think about how many times we put the site on the line. You have an amazing college site, crushing it. 99% of people are on, 99% of college students are on Facebook. And you say, we're going to open it up to high schoolers. Everyone's like, what are you doing? All the college students don't want to be hanging out where the high schoolers are. Don't do it. You do it. Then you say, we're going to open it up to everyone. What are you doing? High schoolers that want to be where their parents are? We're doing it. Boom. Translate it everywhere in the world. Oh, Americans don't want to be where they do. Right? And then platform. Think about Facebook platform where we allowed other people to develop on our site. You're saying we're going to let people compete with the stuff that we build on our own website. You have Facebook photos. If someone wanted to build better photos, they could have. Right? That is balls. Like, say what you will about Mark, the guy takes risks. Okay. That was the answer. Good. Question?
You talk about ship and iterate which works for like ads and stuff like that, but when it's something like changing the main nav from the left to the right, which goes against the best practice, are you still doing a ship and iterate, or are you doing user testing before you push that out?
We definitely do a lot of user testing. Like if you're gonna, so the question is like, how do you ship and iterate when you have something that's a big change, right? You can't always ship and iterate. So for example, when we want to do a big change, we'll put it in front of people, we'll test it on a small, like a few million. We'll test it on a small amount of people to see how they react. We'll do in-house user tests. But that's kind of the data, that's where data informed comes in. At a certain point, you gotta say like, this is what we're doing. We don't know how people will use it. We'll find out once people use it, and we'll get it out, and then we'll iterate. So we can't always ship and iterate on big changes. What was your original question? I'm rambling now.
It was just that I noticed one day where the main nav like account and everything was on the left, and then it shifted to the right.
What? CSS error maybe? That doesn't seem right. We're using it in Hebrew.
Or maybe.
Hebrew maybe?
That's
no?
Like the icon change or something.
You should not have seen that. What time of night was it? How many drinks did you have? Yeah, that seems like a bug. Question?
More and more, I've been seeing businesses and advertising gain a foothold on Facebook, creating like their own pages and people friending them, recommending them to other friends, and advertising admittedly has become a very big part of Facebook. Was there ever any trepidation about that within the company?
To have ads be part of Facebook?